Alien General Vornak stood hunched over the glowing tactical table, his armored fingers twitching above the red holographic grid like a predator poised to strike. Cold artificial light bathed the command deck in pale hues, casting jagged shadows across the metallic exoskeletons of his crew. Outside the viewport, stars wheeled silently past as the dreadnought Kesrith hovered in low orbit over the human colony world of Ardent 4. Sector 9 cleared, rasped one of the officers, his voice a mechanical hiss through his respirator. Minimal resistance. Civilian clusters neutralized. Retrieval teams inbound. Vornak didn't respond at first. His attention was fixed on the red pips flickering across the map, representations of remaining human life signatures. Each was a risk. Each could be a weapon, a trap, or worse, a message. Humanity had taught him that nothing with a human mind could be taken for granted. The war was meant to be swift. The humans were young, fragmented, technologically inferior. But they had proven resilient, inventive, irrational to a fault, and in that irrationality lay something terrifying. The Zalari Empire had learned this during the Battle of Miran Gate, where a single damaged human vessel had turned itself into a relativistic projectile, vaporizing an entire armada. The humans didn't fear death. They feared failure. And now, the mission here was simple: seize resources, install compliance governors, withdraw. No occupation, no assimilation, and absolutely no engagement with human young. That directive had been clear since Earthfall. "Commander," came another voice, shakier than the last. "Package Alpha has arrived on board. Biologicals secured." Vornak's gaze shifted slowly. "Define biologicals, Lieutenant." The officer hesitated. "Juvenile specimens. Human origin. Alive." Time stopped. The hum of the engines, the blinking lights, even the constant background chatter of data streams, all seemed to vanish under a suffocating silence. Vornak's claws scraped against the table as he straightened, the heavy plates of his armor clicking ominously. "You brought human children aboard this vessel?" The words were sharp, metallic, but carried something unusual: panic. "Yes, Commander," the lieutenant said, his voice flattening into submission. "They were found hiding beneath the colony's transit hub. No adult shields present. They surrendered." Vornak turned away from the table, his mind spiraling into a cold, calculated dread. Not fear of the children themselves, but of what their presence meant. No species in known space protected their offspring with such ferocity. For humans, their children were not just biological continuity, they were sacred. Symbols of hope. Triggers for madness. In every encounter, it was the children that transformed rational soldiers into berserkers. Every documented atrocity humans committed in retaliation stemmed from the harming, or even the threat, to a child. "I issued explicit orders to avoid such an outcome," Vornak growled. The silence on the bridge stretched like a blade. Even the lowliest drone operator dared not exhale. "Where are they now?" "Containment room Theta 9, isolated, guarded, unharmed." "No guard will matter if they scream," Vornak said grimly. "Do you know what happens when a human child screams into a transmitter?" The crew stared blankly. "They listen," he answered, voice low. "All of them. And they come." He stepped toward the main communications console, bypassing the stunned crew. His claws danced across the interface. Red emergency glyphs flickered, denied him. He overrode them. Then he paused. "They still have implants?" he asked without turning. "Yes, Commander. Standard human subdermal tracking nodes." Vornak closed his eyes. Then it's already too late. An alert pinged on the display. One of the juvenile transmitters had gone active, no doubt attempting connection with any human vessel within listening range. He stared at the screen, the pulsing signal an angry scar on the quiet digital surface. He had to make a decision. Purge the signal. Eject the children into space. Clean the data. It was the only logical path forward. Sacrifice 3 lives to prevent the annihilation of tens of thousands aboard the fleet. And yet he hesitated. Perhaps it was the way the humans fought to protect, not conquer. Perhaps it was the way they wept when their cities fell. Or perhaps Deep down, something in Vornak, a creature born of war, bred for domination, had begun to wonder if the humans were not the monsters here. He slammed his fist into the console. "No harm shall come to them," he said through clenched mandibles. "Send a courier pod. Return them.
Now."
But, General. Now, he roared, the force of it shaking the deck. "Do not look upon them.
Do not speak to them.
You will place them in the pod and launch it toward the planet's surface. Let the humans find them." The junior officers scrambled. Panic rippled through the bridge, not from fear of their commander, but from what he feared. Because if the general who'd turned 5 planets to ash now trembled, then something unimaginable had been awakened. Vornak remained at the console, watching the transmission pulse. He knew someone on the other end had already heard it. A human would come. Not for vengeance, not for victory, but for their children. And when they arrived, nothing the Zalari Empire had built, no fleet, no technology, no doctrine, would be enough. He stared into the stars, waiting. The transmission was brief, fractured by distance and interference, but its message detonated through every secure human channel like a silent scream. 3 juvenile signatures confirmed. Non-consensual extraction. Signal source: Zalari vessel Kesrith. In the command center of the Archimer, Admiral Yen Reyes read the data twice, though once was enough. A hollow image flickered above the table, 3 small figures huddled in the corner of a containment room, their faces pale but alive. Her jaw clenched. "How far out are we?" she asked without looking up. 47 minutes at max fold, came the reply from Tactical. FTL lane open. No anomalies. Prepare the Black Sun Protocol. Gasps cut through the silence. Even the AI assistant, Vera, hesitated before responding. "Admiral, confirmation required. You are invoking an unmoderated reprisal directive." "I am." "Execute." Around her, officers scrambled into motion. Lights dimmed to combat hue. Warning glyphs slid across consoles in deep crimson. The air grew heavy, not just with protocol, but with emotion. They all understood what it meant. You could bomb a human city. You could assassinate their leaders. You could even burn their history. But you did not take their children. A whisper moved through the bridge, more felt than heard. The Zalari took kids. Commander Idris leaned close, eyes sharp behind his ocular implants. "We going in loud?" "No," Rhea said. "We go in clear." She turned to the central console. "Broadcast to all ships in the fleet. Tag the Kesrith as Priority 1. Defensive nets off. No warning shots." "Yes, ma'am." The Archimer groaned as its massive FTL engines engaged. Within moments, the vessel broke through the space between stars, a silver needle streaking across the black. Behind it, 3 escort cruisers shimmered into motion. But Reyes kept her eyes on the screen, on the faces of those children. She remembered names now.
Ava.
Tyler.
Zoe.
Their school group had been touring an agricultural dome when the Zalari descended. They were left behind when the adults formed the escape chain, likely on purpose, parents sacrificing themselves to buy time. The implants in the children's necks had done the rest, pinging every secure human channel in existence, once activated. The transmission hadn't begged for help. It had simply spoken, "I'm Ava. I want my mom." The phrase had traveled across systems, past satellites, through encrypted wormholes. Reyes could almost feel it burning in her skull. She switched to private line. "Vera, link me to EarthGov." The AI's voice softened. "Channel secure. Recording initiated." A grainy image of the EarthGov strategos appeared. "Admiral, we saw the alert. I'm invoking Article 19. Civilian minor retrieval. 0 collateral priority." He frowned. "Do you anticipate full escalation?" "No," she said. "I guarantee it." There was a pause. Then a slow nod. "God help them." The feed cut. The stars outside elongated again as Archimer dropped out of fold space, just within the Zalari neutral boundary. Across the void, the massive black hull of the Kesrith loomed like a sleeping leviathan. Red shield shimmered along its flanks, unaware that death had already arrived. "Deploy the drones," Reyes said calmly. Silent swarm pattern. Full infiltration scan. Hundreds of glimmering disks erupted from the underbelly of the Archimer, vanishing from normal sight. Each one carried scanning software, signal disruption pulses, and nanoscopic munitions if needed. They surged toward the enemy ship like ghosts. "Ma'am," said a comms officer, eyes wide. "We're inside." Feeding visual now. The main screen lit up. The children were still there, sitting quietly. One of them, Ava, was drawing something with her finger on the floor. "She's making a house," Reyes murmured. Beside her, Idris stiffened. "They don't even understand what's about to happen." "They don't need to," Reyes replied. "They'll be home before they know they were gone." A warning ping lit up the interface. The Zalari had detected the incursion. Shields powering. Weapons charging. "They know we're here."
They always did, Reyes said.
She activated the speaker link to the Kesrith. Her voice echoed through the Zalari bridge before the crew had time to block it. "This is Admiral Lien Reyes of the Human Concord. You are holding 3 minor civilians against interstellar law. You have 60 seconds to release them and jettison them safely. No negotiation. No delay. You know what we are. You know what we do." 60 seconds. Then she cut the line. On the Zalari ship, chaos erupted. Vornak stared at the display. The humans had come, not with demands, not with threats, but with certainty. No bluster. No pride. Just precision. "Launch the pod," he shouted, voice rising above the alarm klaxons.
Now.
But they were too late. The containment room flickered as the human drones disabled the locks. A shimmer, then a flash, and the children were gone. On the Archimer, Ava blinked as she found herself in a clean room lit with soft light and the scent of lavender. A nurse knelt beside her, smiling. "You're safe, sweetheart. You're going home." In the command center, a faint chime indicated success. Reyes stood in silence for several seconds. Then, "Disarm retaliation package. Target neutralized." Officers slowly exhaled. Reyes stared out the viewport at the still hovering Zalari ship. Her voice was low when she spoke. "They're lucky we got there first." Behind her, no one disagreed. The silence on the Kesrith's bridge was no longer tense. It was hollow, like the quiet after a funeral. General Vornak stood motionless, his clawed hands resting on the edges of the command table, the red holograms now faded to ash gray. His officers moved with subdued panic, monitoring systems they could no longer control, watching drones slip through their hull like mist, powerless to resist. The human children were gone, retrieved without resistance, without bloodshed, without ceremony. And that, more than anything, terrified him. He had expected retaliation. He had prepared for violence. What he had not prepared for was mercy, the sharpest blade humanity had ever wielded. Because it wasn't the weapons that haunted him now, nor the infiltration technology that evaded every Zalari sensor. It was that humanity had taken what it came for and left. No demands. No war cry. No destruction. Just a message. "We can reach you anytime." The ship's AI stuttered back to life. "Fleet Command requests clarification. Status of extraction unit? Hostages? Enemy engagement." Vornak didn't answer. He turned instead to the lone datapad lying near his console. A child's drawing had been etched on its surface, uploaded in the moment Ava's implant linked to the ship's systems. Crude lines and strange proportions depicted a house with a yellow circle above it. The word home was scrawled in a human child's script below the image. She had drawn it on the floor of the containment room, unaware her fingers were activating dormant interface fields. Now it was imprinted in the core of the Kesrith. He studied it unblinking. The implications unraveled slowly. They had not only retrieved their young, they had left a signature behind. A symbol, not a warning, but a truth, that children were more than hostages. They were the heart of humanity. To touch them was to invite annihilation, not through brute force, but through the sheer weight of what humanity had become. There was a chime at the door. Vornak turned as Subcommander Tevel entered, his armor scuffed, his expression drawn. He approached with the slow steps of someone approaching a grave. High Command has issued a full review, Tevel said quietly. They want to know why the humans spared us. Vornak tilted his head. Do they see that as a victory? Some do. Others fear it was a delay. That they're studying us now. Testing our response. Vornak returned his gaze to the drawing. They've already studied us. They've already judged us. Tevel hesitated. Then why didn't they strike? Because the children were still alive, Vornak murmured. And we returned them. Intact. That was our only redemption. He handed Tevel the datapad. You see this? A drawing?
No.
A monument. Vornak's voice was quieter now, nearly reverent. This is what they fight for. This is why we never win. Across the bridge, warning lights dimmed. The human drones had all vanished. Systems rebooted. Shields stabilized. The ship's artificial gravity returned to normal. Everything had returned to order, except the crew. They were haunted now, not by defeat, but by what it revealed. Outside, the Archimer drifted silently, no longer facing the Kesrith. It had already begun to turn away, warping the space around it as it prepared to vanish into the stars. A final gesture, refusing to gloat, refusing to destroy. On the human vessel, Admiral Reyes watched the Zalari flagship shrink in the distance. She stood alone now, the bridge calm, lights restored to white. In her hand, she held another drawing, this one handed to her by Ava herself. A family, smiling. A stick figure with a name written above it. Mom. Vera's voice hummed gently. Signal from the Kesrith, encrypted but not hostile. Content. Only a single data image. Reyes nodded, already knowing. The drawing. She turned away from the console and looked out into the void. They're trying, she said. Vera paused. Forgiveness? No, Reyes said softly. Understanding. The ship hummed, engines aligning with the jump vector. We'll give them time, she said. But if they ever forget again. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The Archimer vanished into fold space, leaving behind no damage, no wreckage, only the silence of a war averted by the innocence of 3 children and the restraint of a species that had finally learned how to wield its power with care. Back aboard the Kesrith, Vornak stood alone as the bridge emptied. He picked up the datapad and walked to his private chamber, the weight of the small image greater than any weapon he'd ever carried. He placed it on his desk and stared at it for a long time. Then, slowly, he deactivated every military directive tied to human conflict in the Zalari system. Not out of fear, out of respect, because he finally understood what the humans had always fought for, and what they would always come for. He hoped, quietly, deeply, that the Empire would never forget again.